Hey guys, today we're doing something new. We're flip charting. So I got myself a flip chart because I love explaining concepts, different kinds of concepts, more visually. So that's why we got flip chart going. And today we are talking about the science, or better say practice, of Carb-Ups. Specifically, we're talking about why you want to do Carb-Ups if you're following low carb diet, low carb high fat diet, keto diet consistently, and especially if you are trying to lose fat and you can't really get where you want to get. So Carb-Ups can be a missing piece in this fat loss puzzle. So Carb-Ups. In practice, I don't know if you see that, but I'll try to make it more visible. So Carb-Ups, why do you want to have carb days, higher carb days on a low carb, high fat diet, especially if you're trying to lose weight and you can't lose that weight, you can't get where you want to get. So first, diet fatigue. This is a mental thing when you start obsessively thinking about carbohydrates, and specifically usually your brain goes to refined carbohydrates like sugars, like grains, and so to prevent that from happening, what you really want to do is to just eat once in 7 to 10 days. That's what I noticed works the best for the most people to keep the fat loss going and to optimize health and performance, and to get to keep the fat loss going, but also get all the benefits from all the Carb-Ups. So once in 7 to 10 days. I'm forgetting the words, like this new thing messes my thinking process up. Anyway, so Carb-Ups, you want to do them to prevent diet fatigue, and most of it is mental, to prevent cravings and then eating all this processed junk. So you want to do Carb-Ups with foods that work for you but higher in carbs. My favorites are vegetables, all sorts of starchy and non-starchy colorful vegetables that I usually miss on my keto low carb diet, that also will give you more fiber and more nutrients that you might be missing on your keto and low carb lifestyle. So vegetables, fruits, and especially berries that are super high in antioxidants and phytochemicals, and a lot of also fiber in some berries, like raspberries, for example. And what else? Nuts and seeds, also my favorite, and so much fiber and so many things, so many minerals like potassium, like magnesium, other minerals. So nuts and seeds is another one of my favorites. Some people like to add some rice to that, some people like to add some other grains, and but yeah, the best way, of course, and we're going to talk about it actually a bit later, the second reason why you want to do Carb-Ups is to prevent metabolic slowdown, to prevent your metabolism being unflexible, meaning you become kind of like glucose intolerant. You can't really digest and absorb and metabolize carbs. So you want to prevent that. When it comes to protein, I would always keep it the same. Like protein, unless you're in a building stage, like you're trying to compete as a bodybuilder, keep your protein the same. Whatever you do, keep it the same. Like it shouldn't vary that much. Specifically for Carb-Ups. Fat always go down. So imagine like this is the scales. And so what you want to do is when your carbs go up, your fats go down. And when your fats go up, your carbs go down. So this is how your metabolism works the best. When your fats are up and your carbs are up, this is a metabolic disaster. When both are down, you're just going to feel crappy because your body will not have much energy sources, because your body can get energy from fat or from carbs. And so but yeah, to prevent metabolic disasters, because when your fats are up, your blood sugar stays elevated for longer, but also that fat prevents your body to use properly those carbohydrates again, because fats slow down your metabolism, the absorption of nutrients, and also when your carbs are up, you can't really get into ketosis and burn your fats for fuel effectively. So you don't want to keep your fats and carbs up. So I do include, nuts and seeds, like a little bit off topic, a little bit off my plan, but I think it's useful for you. I do like to have nuts on my higher carb days, but what you want to understand is the fats you absorb from whole nuts, not nut butters, are actually quite low, because your body has to also work through that fiber, and nuts have a lot of fiber before absorbing any fats. And so, yeah, you might get higher fats eating nuts and seeds, but because the absorption rate is going to be so much slower because of all the fiber, it doesn't usually create that much problem. But if you, for example, start eating some refined foods higher in fats and carbs, that's another story. There is no fiber to slow down anything, and those foods are processed, are digested really fast, and then fats are up, carbs are up, and your metabolism is like out of balance again. It's not the best scenario. But reason number 2 for carbs up: to prevent metabolic slowdown, to prevent fat loss slowdown, to prevent metabolic slowdown and your fat loss progress from stopping. So that's why you want to do carb ups. And the next very important one is cortisol. Your cortisol gonna go up usually if you continuously keep your carbohydrates down. Your cortisol goes up, your body starts retaining water. That's what happens when cortisol is up all the time, when it's elevated all the time. You don't want to have that situation consistently with your cortisol being higher than usual. So cortisol goes up, you retain water, but what is even worse, your inflammation goes up, and what is even worse, your visceral fat accumulation starts to happen, and you start to accumulate that visceral fat around your internal organs. That is highly correlated with chronic diseases, with heart disease, with metabolic syndrome. So you don't want that to happen, and that happens to a lot of people when you never eat any carb. That's what usually happens. And also your sleep quality starts to suffer, and also cortisol makes your body to break down your own muscles. So basically cortisol, it actually makes any kind of fuel more available, and so it makes your body to dissimulate things or break down things, your muscle tissue including. So if your cortisol is always elevated, you will have real hard time building muscles. So let's recap. So number 1 reason why you want to do Carb-Ups is to prevent diet fatigue. Okay, number 2, to prevent metabolic slowdown and to prevent your fat loss slowdown. And number 3, guys, to prevent your cortisol going up and staying up. You want to have other things up, not your cortisol. So that's why you want to do Carb-Ups. And the next one is how to do that. So we talked briefly already about how to do your Carb-Ups. But in general, if you want to keep your fat loss going with Carb-Ups, what you want to do is you want to stick to whole foods only. So number 1, how whole foods only. Why? Because you don't want to be craving all that processed foods after you end your carb up day. You want to get back to a low carb, high fat diet if you want to keep your fat loss progress going, and if you want to stay lean, and if you want to keep all these metabolic advantages that happen on a low carb, high fat diet. So whole foods only. That will also prevent you from overeating, because when you eat whole foods, your hunger is naturally, your body can balance your hunger and can figure out when you have enough food and all the nutrients that you might have been missing. Your body knows how to control that, how to sense that much better when you eat whole foods. Even if you eat healthy processed foods, you know, like maybe some nut butters. Nuts are better than nuts because your body gets nutrients, your body senses how much nutrition you got, plus all the fiber. It all helps you to maintain natural feeling of hunger and to better balance your, to help your body to better balance your metabolism. The reason why I'm having troubles finding exact terms, because I wouldn't say that this is an exact science, but this is what I've learned through teaching all my clients, through coaching all my clients. I had like 150 clients to this point probably, and specifically on keto and low carb high fat diet. And so this is what I've learned from my personal experience and with my clients. So whole foods only, that work the best. The amount of carbohydrates, usually 100, 150, somewhere in that range, and that including fiber. So usually what happens when you eat whole foods only, you get somewhere around, like I personally, when I do my Carb-Ups, I get 70, 80 grams of fiber. So if I'm eating, let's say 150 grams of carbs, I'm still getting only like 70, 80 grams of carbohydrates without fiber. And that's in the best case scenario if my body gets all the nutrients with all the fiber. Because what happens usually when you eat a lot of fiber, a lot of nutrients are actually not absorbed by your body, because our digestion is not that effective when it comes to breaking down fibers in plant foods. So 100, 150 grams of carbs total. And there was something else. Carb-Ups, whole foods. And yeah, the last piece that I really like to remind people, and I think it's going to be really useful for you guys too. Again, when you're doing your Carb-Ups, the best case scenario is to bring your fats up, your carbs down. And so the next day when you go back to your low carb high fat diet, your fats go up, your carbs go down. So they work like scales. So number 3, carbs up, fats down. And that's it, guys. So Carb-Ups, you can read all the details in my post the last post that I made on Carb-Ups. But yeah, you want to do Carb-Ups to prevent metabolic slowdown, to prevent your fat loss plateaus. You want to do Carb-Ups to prevent diet fatigue, when you basically start craving all this carb-rich foods, and where your body usually goes is to highly processed foods. So to prevent that from ever happening, just eat your healthy carbohydrates from vegetables, from fruits, and foods that work for you, increasing the amount of nutrients and amount of fiber that you get. So do that once in 7 to 10 days, and you won't crave anything as long as you have a balanced diet and you provide all the essential nutrients, or at least close to that. So to prevent diet fatigue, metabolic slowdown, and to prevent your cortisol going up, to prevent water retention and fat accumulation and breaking down of your muscles, and visceral fat accumulation. And the most important points about Carb-Ups, again, I think you want to remember from this lesson is your fats go up, your carbs go down, your carbs go up, your fats go down. You want to consume somewhere around 100-150 grams with fiber. That's what usually works for low carb folks the best, so you keep your fat loss going and you don't feel, I don't know, that disastrous the day after the carb up. Because if you eat a lot of processed carbohydrates or too many carbohydrates, you're gonna feel shitty the next day when you're gonna bring your carbs down. So to prevent that, keep them 100-150 grams from whole foods only. That's the best way to do your carb ups. If you have any questions, guys, feel free to comment, feel free to DM me with any questions, maybe specific questions that you are having troubles with doing your carb ups or thinking about doing your carb ups. And specifically for women, for females, I highly recommend you to do carb ups, especially if you're having some problems with your period regularity. It seems that females are more sensitive to the amount of carbohydrates in their diet. For me personally, when I had no carbs in my diet, my period stopped. And as soon as I reintroduced carb ups every 7-10 days, it got regular, like nothing ever happened. So that's another quick tip for you girls to keep you healthy and fertile for as many years as possible. And that's it. Again, if you have any questions, always reach out. We learn, we improve, and that's how progress happens. So see you soon.